So I throw up my hands and praise you again and again. Hallelujah, hallelujah. And I know it's not much, but I've nothing else fit for a king except for a heart singing hallelujah.
Today's message is about. We're going to be talking about what if. What if is a powerful statement. It's a question. It's a thing that when you are dreaming, when you are envisioning what could happen, what if this, what if then, if and then statements. If this is true, then that is true. What if? It's a fun question, especially if you like thinking about the future and envisioning and charting a course. You know, I think of like great explorers like Lewis and Clark. They thought, what if we just go down the river and see where we end up? Or Christopher Columbus, what if we sail across the ocean? What will I find? I have no idea. It's a whole new world. But you see, what if lets us use our imagination and think about all the different possibilities. I think of people like Steve Jobs, Nikola Tesla, Thomas Edison, Elon Musk, all these different inventors who asked a very simple question, what if? 2 words. They asked, what if I could improve something today that will make tomorrow better? What if I'm able to invent something? What if I'm able to make it easier to do this? What if? So today we are going to ask a very simple question. It's a hard question, but it's a simple question. What if we truly loved like Jesus? And we're going to see where that takes us today. So the first place, if you guys want to go ahead and start flipping over to it, is in Matthew chapter 25, verse 37 through 45. And we're going to be talking about what it means to love like Jesus. And the first thing, what it means to love like Jesus, is the sacrifice. You see, we're going to read here in Matthew 25 that Jesus is talking to his disciples in this moment, and he's telling him, what it's going to look like when he returns, what he's going to be looking for, what is going to be happening, the questions that he'll be asking, what he's looking for in those that are be going to heaven with him. And so here in Matthew chapter 25, verse 37 is where we're going to pick it up. It says here, "Then the righteous will answer him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry, and when did we feed you? Or thirsty, and gave you a drink? When did we see you as a stranger, and welcome you, or naked, and clothe you? And when did we see you sick, or in prison, and visit you?" See, the reason why they're responding this way is because right before this, Jesus said that when the king returns, that he is going to ask them, he's going to say, those that are righteous, you clothed me, you gave me food when I was hungry, you gave me clothes when I didn't have any, drink when I was thirsty. And these people are like, well, I don't remember seeing you, Jesus. I don't remember giving you any food or any water. And so they're wondering, like, what is he talking about here? Well, in verse 40, it says, "The king will answer them, truly I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers, you did it to me." And then verse 41, he says, "Then he will say to those on his left, he will say, depart from me, cursed into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, you gave me no food. I was thirsty, you gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and you did not welcome me. Naked, you did not clothe me. Sick and in prison, and you did not visit me." Whoa, that's quite the turn from what he just said. It was kind of, awesome. Jesus giving us a pat on the back. We gave people that were hungry, we gave them food. We fed them. We gave them clothes. We gave them drinks and all this other stuff. But then Jesus quickly turns to the ones that didn't. And he tells them, he says that he will tell them to depart from him. And then here in verse 45, "And then he will answer them, saying, truly I say to you, as you did not do it to one of the least of these, you did not do it to me. And these will go away into eternal punishment, but the righteous into eternal life." You see, the point that Jesus is trying to make here is that we as disciples of Christ, that we need to be willing to sacrifice. To love like Jesus is to be willing to go out of our way if we see a need to fill that need, right? To give food to those that are hungry, to give drink to those that are thirsty, clothes that do not have any. And so Jesus is calling us to do these things, to look around us in our world, to look around us in our communities and the people around us, and to fill that need. So if you see a need, fill a need. Even the early church, so after Jesus, when in the book of Acts, in Acts chapter 2, verse 44 through 45, it's talking about, it says, and all who believed were together, and they had all things in common, and they were selling their possessions and belongings and distributing the proceeds as any had need. So they saw a need, and instead of waiting for somebody else to fill the need, they just said, well, I have this extra abundance of stuff. Let me just sell this so I can help this person out. Let me fill that need. So the early church, the reason why they were such a tightly knit group, the reason why they were so strong together is because they were a community. They had this communal aspect. The Bible tells us they lived together, they ate together. When they saw a need, when they saw a brother or sister in need, they sacrificed what they had to help that person out, to fill that need. So to love like Jesus is to be willing to sacrifice, not just financially. It is deeper than that. I know we just got done with doing our tithes and offering, and that is fantastic. That is good. The Bible tells us to do these things with a cheerful heart, but it's so much deeper than just what we give financially. See, God calls us to be willing to sacrifice everything and anything that he needs us to. Our time, our energy, our possessions, whatever else he calls us to sacrifice. Why? Because he wants us to be Christ-like. That's what it means to be a follower of Jesus, that every day we strive to be more and more like Christ. And to be more and more like Christ means to be more and more willing to sacrifice. Why? Why do we need to give a sacrifice? Well, did God not make the greatest sacrifice of all? In the Bible, in John 3:16, it explains it clearly to us. It says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only son, so that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. God sacrificed his son. Now, I'm not a parent, but I know there are parents in here. I don't have a kid. I don't have a son or a daughter. I just have a cat. So I can only imagine, right, as a parent, what that pain would be like, right? Like just for a second, just try and put yourself in Jesus or God's shoes. You love these people you created. He created the entire world. He created Israel and all the inhabitants of it, all the people across the globe. And he was in such pain and turmoil. He had this agony, this anguish over their lifestyles. And he knew the only way that they would truly ever be saved, the only way that they would ever truly have a relationship with him is if he made the greatest sacrifice. And that was to give his son up. And not only God, but Jesus knew before he ever left heaven what the plan would be. We even see that in the Garden of Gethsemane, right before Jesus is to be arrested. He's talking with God. He's saying, Lord, let this cup depart from me, but if it is your will, then let it be done. I will go through with it. See, they gave the greatest sacrifice so that way we would not have to be doomed to this eternal fire, this ugly ending, but instead, like what the Bible says, that we can go boldly before the throne, that we can have a right relationship with God. And so if God was willing to make that sacrifice, that amount of a sacrifice, who are we then to tell God, I can't put that away. I can't put that to the side. I'm sorry. You're asking way too much of me, God. I need this. This is for me. Who are we to deny what God calls us to do? Matthew chapter 10, verse 8, it talks about that freely you have received, so freely you should give. Jesus is telling his disciples when he's about to send them out to go and do their own ministry, right? Jesus is telling them, freely you have received my teachings, you have received the Spirit, you have received all these different things from me, so now freely you shall give. He said, freely give. Don't hold it back. It's not only meant for some people or some type of people or only for Jews or only for people that live in Israel. It was meant for everyone. He said, freely give. So freely that you have received, freely give to others. See, we must be willing to sacrifice everything to gain nothing. This is one of the core values that I set aside for me as the youth pastor and for my youth sponsors. Why? Because there is a chance. Let me tell you that there is a chance that no matter what we do, it may amount to nothing. But if God calls you to do it, then you have to do it. Because if you walk in that disobedience. If you don't do it, what you're doing then is disobeying what God has called you to do, and that's not correct either. So we must be willing to sacrifice everything to gain nothing. We must be willing to sacrifice our time, our energy, our rest, our possessions, our money, our whatever, fill in the blank. We must be willing to sacrifice it on the chance, because when Jesus came to die on the cross, he knew that in the back of his mind, there's a chance that this could be for nothing, and that nobody would ever believe in the resurrection. Nobody would ever walk in a right relationship with God, and I just sacrificed my life for nothing. There's a chance that could have happened, right? It wasn't a given possibility that what Jesus did on the cross would have amounted to what it did today. So we have to be willing to sacrifice everything to gain nothing, because I will tell you this, the Bible tells us that his word does not return void. So if we do what God has called us to do, I can tell you this, it won't amount to nothing. You may not be able to see it, but someone else will. Someone else will reap that harvest. Some of you have spent years pouring in to a specific individual, trying to get them to come to church, trying to get them to have a relationship with Jesus and to experience that freedom. And you aren't seeing that breakthrough yet, but I'm telling you this, continue sacrificing your time in that person, because it is worth it. Because it is so worth it, because you may not see that harvest, but somebody else will down the road.
And I know it's not much, but I've nothing else fit for a king, except for a heart singing hallelujah.